Once I logged out of this application, when I click on this back button, I'm not going back to home.php. Instead, I'm staying back in the index.php. This is because of sessions. Fine. So, how we are going to do this with sessions? Let us see by going through that code. Let me explain you this code. First, I'll open register.php file. So listen carefully, all of you. Please pay attention. So I'm not going to deal this topic again because we are running out of time. We have to complete this PHP and then start the servlets. Fine. So when you are using these sessions in all the PHP pages that you create, at the top of your page, soon after you open this PHP script tag, first you need to write this function. That is, you need to make a call to this function user defined predefined PHP function called session underscore start. Exam, some people have written start session. I don't know whether it is you or somebody else. I'm dealing the same subject for another section also. So maybe I don't know exactly who it is, but some people have used start underscore session instead of session underscore start. So don't get confused with the function name. It is session underscore start. So if you don't write this, if you don't make a call to this function at the beginning of your PHP script, it should be at the top of the page. Okay, then sessions will not work in your page. Okay, so what is a session? Session is also another super global array. Just like for cookie, you have a cookie super global array dollar underscore cookie. Sessions also will have a dollar underscore session super global array. So just like in cookie array, how the entries are created, even in session super global array also entries will be created. Okay. So let us see how this will be done. First, let me go down to the form, HTML form, where we are creating a registration form. In the registration form, you are entering three fields. One is for username, second one is email, and third one is password. So look at the name attribute values for this form control. For username, it is uname. For email, it is email. For password, it is pass. Okay, fine. So you have a button here. So its type is chosen as submit, and the button will display with the value sign me up. Where this form is being submitted? Am I submitting it to any other page? No. I'm just using only the method attribute. This form will be submitted to the current page itself. Register.php page. So whenever you submit this form, right, this data will be received by the PHP script that we have written at the top. So are you writing any other script at the bottom? Nothing is written. Fine. So even before we enter some data into this HTML form, this PHP script gets executed. This PHP script gets executed. But if it is executing and displaying something, then your page will display something, some error message, even before you enter and submit the HTML. That should not happen, right? In order for that not to happen, we need to write the PHP code, the script, very carefully by using an if statement, right? So soon after calling the session underscore start function, what I'm doing here is I'm using an if statement. In that I'm making a call to isSet function. We have already used this isSet function when we were dealing the cookies program, right? So what is this isSet function going to do? It is going to check whether a super global array has been set with a particular associated key and the value is stored in it or not, right? If it is set, then it is going to return true. Otherwise, it is going to return false. So what I'm checking in the isSet function is dollar underscore session of user, right? So what is this going to do? It is going to check whether an entry has been created with a key called user in $_session array, and it is not empty. So I'm checking what whether it is not equal to blank space or okay. So nothing is there, blank, empty. So if it is not equal to empty means what? It is equal to something else which is non-empty. That means it has been created and it is something else, right? So that I'm checking here by giving it as parameter to the isSet function. So isSet function will check whether it is uh, set or not. If it is set, it is going to return true. Otherwise, it is going to return false, right? So when I say this is not equal to blank space, then indicates that it is uh, some information is there stored in it, but we don't know exactly what it is. It has been created and it is something. Then in that scenario, this if block gets executed. What is this if block going to do? It is going to redirect you by calling the header function. So what is this header function going to do? It is going to redirect to whichever page we specify as the value of this location, right? So what is that value you are specifying? Home.php. So if this condition is satisfied, then it will be redirected to this home.php file. And when this will be satisfied, a session variable is created. An entry has been created in $_session super global array with its key as user. Right. So as of now, we didn't create a session variable user now, right? Because we just opened this register.php file and didn't yet create any entries into the $_session super global array. So this will become false. As a result, this statement will not be executed. That is, if block will not be executed and will not be redirected to home.php. Right. So the next step is what you're doing is you're include once dbconnect.php. So dbconnect.php. Let me open the dbconnect.php file. I told you what is the purpose of include one. So what is include once going to do? It is going to include the that is present in that specified file at that particular line where you have written that include statement. So what is the code written in dbconnect.php? This is the code. It's 5 lines of code, 5 or 6 lines of code. So this code will be pasted here in place of this single line. This entire thing will be replaced with that whatever code is there in dbconnect.php. 6 lines of code. So this is equivalent to this one line is equivalent to this 6 lines of code. Okay? So that is the purpose of include once statement. So now, what is there in dbconnect.php? In dbconnect.php, we'll just make a connection to the that is we'll establish a connection to the database. I already told you how to establish a connection to the database, right? I need not explain it once again, but I'll briefly explain. $con is equal to MySQLi underscore connect. So what is this function going to do? This function is going to establish a connection to the database with the specified values as parameters to it. So how many parameters are there for this function? 4 parameters are there. The first one is localhost, which refers to your MySQL server where it is hosted. That is the IP address of that hosted system, server system. But because we don't have a exclusive server, we are using local server. So we'll refer to that local server with the name. Then second one is the user account for the MySQL installed on that server. So there will be user account by default called root user account. So I'm using the root user account. So I'm giving the username as root. And third parameter is the password for that user account. Root user account, I didn't give any password for it. So it is empty. So open the double quote and close the double quote. That's it. So that indicates that it is an empty password. Then the fourth parameter is the name of the database. So we are using the database registration, right? So you need to give that one as the fourth parameter. Once you give this 4 parameters to this function will be invoked and it will try to identify the MySQL root user account and log into it using this username and password, and it will check whether the registration database is there available or not. If it is there, it will establish the connection and return that connection information and store it in form of a string in $con variable, right? So if something is stored here in $con variable, which is non-zero value, then we consider it as a truth value. Right? If a null value is returned, a zero value or null value is returned, that is considered as false here. So depending on the value of $con, this entire statement will either become true or false. So it will be true if it is successfully connected to the database. It will be false if it is unable to connect to the database. Say, let us assume that if it is uh, unable to connect to the database, then this statement that I highlighted with blue color will become false. And this one is again negated. Okay? We are performing a logical NOT operation. This is returning false. Not of false will become true. That means this entire statement, including the not operator, will become true if you are unable to connect to the data. Right? So in that case, what we need to display an error message to the user about some problem has occurred in establishing connection to the database, and it will display a message, oops, connection problem, and that is concatenated with the value returned by this another predefined function called MySQL underscore connect underscore error. So this function is going to return the error message, which will give you a description about what exactly has happened and why you are unable to establish connection to the database. Right? So that information will be returned by this function. Right? So if you are unable to establish connection, then this message will be displayed first, and this will be concatenated with the reason, description about the reason for which the database is not. The entire reason will be displayed by this way. If it is established a connection, then this will become true, and not of true will become false, and as a result, this will not be fine. So let us assume that we have successfully established connection to the database, and nothing will happen. We'll continue with the next statement here in this register.php. So in the register.php, in the next line, what I'm doing is uh, I'm using again isSet function in if statement, checking whether dollar underscore post of btn hyphen sign. So what is this btn hyphen sign up? This is also another form control. So in the HTML form, at the bottom, we are using a button whose type is given as submit, and its name attribute value is given as btn hyphen sign. I told you earlier, all the input tags here, all the button tags or select tags, all the controls, an entry will be created when this form is submitted, the respective super global array, depending on what type of method we are using, whether the method is get or the method is post. Because our method is post here, so entries will be created for username, that is uname, email, right, and then pass, and then finally btn hyphen sign up. Four entries will be created, and their four keys will be right. These four entries will be created in dollar underscore post. So what I am doing here is I am checking whether this dollar underscore post is uh, of btn sign up entry has been created or not by passing it as parameter to isSet function. So this isSet function will return true if that entry is created, otherwise it will return false. So if the entry has been created, what does it mean? It means that the form has been submitted. So only when the form is submitted, this part must be executed. This if block must be executed. Otherwise, the if block should not be executed. That is what I want. Right? Fine. So let us assume that the form has been submitted by the user after entering the username, email ID, and password. Then this will become true, and next we'll execute these three statements, also the remaining statements which are under this if block. So this if block is beginning here, ending here for this brace, right? Fine. So what you are doing here, we are retrieving those three values and storing them in three different variables: uname, email, and upass. So how to retrieve them? So these values will be stored in dollar underscore post of uname, dollar underscore post of email, dollar underscore post of pass. So these are the name attribute values we have given in the form tag. So with those names, these entries will be created in this dollar underscore post. So instead of directly retrieving them from dollar underscore post super global and storing them in variables, what I am doing is I am using another predefined function called MySQLi underscore real underscore escape underscore string. So this is another user predefined function. So what is this function going to be? For this, we need to pass two parameters. First one is the database with which we are interacting, right? So we'll refer to the database with this $con variable only. After establishing connection to the database, we'll refer to the database only with this variable only. Instead of mentioning that username, password, and database name and all, we'll refer all together with a single entity called a connection variable, right? Like in Java, you have connection on. Okay, fine. So this one must be passed as first parameter. Second parameter is a dollar underscore post of whichever value you want to extract from the dollar underscore post, right? So when you pass these two as parameters to this function MySQLi underscore real underscore escape underscore string, what is this going to do? Is it is going to trim all the any escape sequences or any is at times you are trying to do text in the user in the text field by giving some spaces or something by mistake without knowing you may give something like that. To ignore all those things, to remove all those special characters added into those fields without your knowledge, without your knowledge, what we are doing, what this is going to do is it is going to eliminate all those escape sequences and take only the actual characters that you give, that is the special symbols or the alphabets from A to Z or 0 to 9 digits, right? Except these special symbols that are permitted and the alphabets and digits remaining any other anything additionally is given by mistake in form fields, all those things will be removed and then the result will be stored in this variable returned by this function after removing. They will be stored in that variable $u. So we are doing it for all the three fields: for email, for username, and for password. We are storing the result in $uname, $email, and $upass. And if you observe the password after retrieving that value, after removing all those escape characters and everything, we are also passing the result to another function called MD5 function. This is another predefined function in PHP. The name itself specifies. You know about now you are dealing with computer network subject also, right? So there you will have some encryption algorithms. I don't know whether you have them or not in the syllabus. There is something called encryption. You all know what is encryption. If you know what is encryption, at least one or two members, please respond in the chat. If you don't know, I will tell you what it is. Say yes or no. What is encryption? Okay. Anyone else? Normal text to ciphertext. What is ciphertext? Security only. Encryption means converting a readable information into non-readable, unreadable characters. Say, for example, Tarun is your name. You want to type, want to communicate with some friend about this word Tarun. Want to say Tarun to somebody. You don't want the third person to know about this one. What you can do is you can add a key for it and add a security. So if I insert a before each and every letter here, what will happen? So everybody reads this, what will they understand? Will they understand that it is a word Tarun, but it is encrypted in such a way that a letter called A is added before each and every actual letter in the word. Actual letters are THARUN. But before each and every letter in that word Tarun, uh, letter A is inserted, right? So this is called as encryption. So after encryption, whatever resulting data comes, that is called as the encrypted text, ciphertext, right? Fine. Before encryption, whatever is it, that we call it as plain text and ciphertext. Okay. So plain text is Tarun and this is ciphertext. Resulting value, a third party person sees it, will not understand. I'll tell how to decrypt it. How to decrypt it means to the intended person. Say I want to send this data to my one of my friend. So if anybody in the middle is trying to interpret it and try to understand it, he'll not be able to understand because he does not have the key to interpret it, decrypt it. So key for it is A. I'll just say A to the required person, destination, right? Then what he'll do is he'll remove each and every A letter, alternative A letter, starting from the first letter. Then he'll consider only the remaining A's, remaining letters, right? Remove all alternative letters A. Then I'll get the actual word, right? So this is encryption. So in this way, there are different types of algorithms using which you can encrypt plain text into ciphertext. Okay, so one such algorithm is MD5 algorithm. I don't know whether it is completed or not. Syllabus has been covered or not. If it is already covered, let me know. No MD5 algorithm. Say yes or no, somebody. So I think you may come across it in the coming units in the fourth or fifth unit. The remaining for you now. MD5 is an algorithm. There is a full form for it. Google it and you will get it. MD5 algorithm is used to encrypt the data, right? So if you give something, that actual data will be converted into encrypted data, that is hypertext, just like I showed you now. Not exactly the same. I just told you for an understanding sake in a simple way. I have to deal the MD5 algorithm, it will take one or two classes, right? So let us not go to that one. So MD5 algorithm will encrypt the data so that any middle person, unintended person, will not be able to understand the actual data that we are transmitting from source to destination, right? So source is the first person and destination is the second person. Only these two persons are designated for knowing this message. But if any third person tries to know about this one, he will not be able to understand because he will not have the key to decrypt that text. On the source side, the source will encrypt the data and send that encrypted ciphertext to the destination. And along with that ciphertext, it will also send the key so that using that key, the destination side will decrypt the data. Decrypt means encryption means adding some additional content and making it into a ciphertext. Decryption means from ciphertext again removing the unnecessary content and getting back the original content. It is called as decryption, encryption and decryption. right? So decryption is opposite to encryption. So on source side you will do encryption, and on the destination side you will do decryption. So I hope you have heard about these terms, encryption and decryption. Even in the WhatsApp messages also you'll be able to say for the first time when you type a message to a new contact, so you'll get a notification that message in that chat window that messages are in. So decryption is next one. Encryption is for converting plain text to hypertext. Encryption means what? Converting hypertext to plain text. Okay. So this is decryption. Exactly opposite to encryption is decryption. So on the source side you do encryption, and on the server side you do. So I'm using this MD5 encryption algorithm. For that algorithm, to implement that algorithm, we have a predefined function in PHP called MD5 function. So when you pass any parameter to this one, say now for example, the password I entered in my field is stored in this $_ post, and I'm retrieving it and passing it as parameter to MD5 function. And what is this function going to do? It's going to encrypt my password, right? And then I'm storing it in my table of the database after encryption. And that is the reason why we were unable to know the password here, right? So I've given something else. I didn't give this much lengthy password. I just gave a 10-digit mobile number, but it is converted into hypertext like this and stored in the table of the database. Fine. So this is hypertext. So when you are logging in again, then again what we need to do is whatever password you entered during registration, that password in the login page also must be encrypted and then compared with the password retrieved from the table. So then only there will be a match. Otherwise, there will not be a match. If you compare encrypted password with another encrypted password, then it will be matching. If you compare encrypted password with non-encrypted password, will it be matching? It will not be matching, right? The login page also we need to perform the same encryption there also. So I'm encrypting here and storing it in the database. Why I am encrypting here is because on the server there will be people working on it. They may open the tables and database and your password. For your security of user, even the administrators of your application should not be able to see your passwords in the database. So for that purpose, what we are doing is we are encrypting the password. Fine. So now now we have retrieved the username, email, and stored them. We don't require any encryption for these two fields because they can be visible to everyone. Even during login page, if somebody is sitting beside you, they'll be able to see your username or email, but they'll not be able to see your password. Password will not be visible because it will appear in dots, stars, right? But password is confidential. So we are encrypting only the password. We are not encrypting email and username. Fine. So after storing these three with respect to three variables, $union, $email, and $u, then we are executing the query. So what is the query we need to execute? Because this is a registration page, we need to insert this username, email, and password into the table of the database. Then we say it is successfully registered. Fine. So to do that, we have a MySQL underscore query function. So instead of using this function separately, I'm using it inside the if statement directly. And what are the parameters you need to pass for this function? First parameter is $con, the connection variable. Second parameter is the query that you want to execute. right? So instead of storing this entire query in a string variable in a variable and passing that variable as parameter directly, I'm writing this query in double quotes here itself. So insert into the table name is users, and how many fields I'm inserting: username, email, and password. Actually, there are 4 fields in the table. Along with these 3 fields, there is one more field at the beginning, that is user ID. Just before I showed you, right? First field is user ID, second field is username, third field is email, and fourth field is password. But I'm not inserting user ID. I'm inserting only username, email, and password. Only these 3 fields I'm inserting. The first field will be automatically inserted with an integer value that will be incremented for each and every record that you insert. So you need not mention the first field because you are not inserting that value into it. Automatically it gets inserted MySQL table once a record is inserted, right? So no need to specify that 4 fields. You can specify only the 3 fields that you are inserting uh, values. What is the value for username? The value that is stored in the $uname variable, because we have retrieved the username and stored in this $uname variable. Don't forget to give it in single quote, comma, again $email for email, because email value is stored in $email variable. Then password in $upass. This query gets executed, and if it is successfully executed, then this will become true. As a result, this if block gets executed. If block is beginning here and ending here, and after the if block has begun with the opening brace, closing the PHP script tag, because whatever I'm writing here is not a PHP script, it is a JavaScript. So I need to close the PHP script. Inside PHP script, I cannot directly write a HTML code or JavaScript, right? So I'm closing the PHP script tag. Then I'm writing the script tag, opening it and closing it, and in between that, I'm writing the JavaScript alert box specifying successfully registered. Okay. Then I'm opening the PHP script tag again and closing the corresponding brace for if block. Then after this block, I'm using else block, opening the else block open brace. So else means what? This table has not been, that is, record has not been inserted, but then if this is going to return false, then else block will be executed. In else block, what I'm doing, I'm alerting one message error while registering. I'm just mentioning error while registering. I'm not mentioning the reason for not being able to execute the query. Fine. Then the else block is closed, and one more brace is closed for the outer if block that is opened at the top. Right? So what is happening here? If you are registering, if you are opening this page for the first time, you are registering. First, this gets executed even before you enter data into the form. This script gets executed. Session underscore start function will be called, and this part will be executed, and this will become false, and then this will be executed. Form.php file will be executed, right? So we'll come back to this register.php file once again later after going through the after I explaining the code in the index.php file. Right? So after signing up, where are we going? Are we going to somewhere else? No, we'll be staying back in this page only. Same register.php. We are not going to be redirected to any page. But why did I write this part? If I remove this one, if I remove this code, right, then what will happen? The first time when I come to this page, the page will be opened without any problem. But the problem occurs when I log into the application and then log out of that application, right? So if I try to come to this register.php file, then it will be redirecting you back to home.php file. So that is the reason why I have written this code here. From the home page, try to open register.php. I'll show you now here. So I log in first. So now I'm logged in and I'm in home.php. So the user of your application is a skilled guy. He already knows how to execute, how to write a PHP script and execute it. So edit that URL, the address bar, and we'll try to type this file name register.php. And what is happening? Are you going back to register.php or you're staying back at home.php? Staying back at home.php. So if you try to go to that register.php file from this home.php file after logging into your account, it should not allow you to go back to that page. Instead, it has to redirect back to home.php file. Right? That means you may come to this register.php file, you may try to come to this register.php file in many ways. You cannot directly come to uh, register.php file here. From index page, you may go to sign up, right? Or you may directly open register.php file URL of the address bar. Or you may try to come from the home page after you log in. From there, you may try to come to register.php. So we may go to any page from anywhere else. There are multiple ways from which you can arrive to your current page, right? You may not come only in one way. Just like you have different routes to reach a particular destination, similarly, you may have different directions in which you can come to a particular page in your application. So you may come to register.php page from index.php file. Right? Earlier I was in index.php. If I click on sign in, where am I going? Index.php. My current page is set to the index.php. If I click on sign up here, where I'm going? Register.php. So how did I come reach register.php? From index.php I came to register.php. Right? Earlier when I was logged in, I was there in home.php. From there also I tried to come to register.php by typing that by removing that home.php from here and typing register.php. Right? So in that way also I can come to register.php. So the user is already logged into his account and he is in home.php and then he tries to come to register.php. Because the session has not been destroyed, we must redirect the user to go back to the home page only, not to register.php file. Right? So that's the reason why we have written that code at the beginning like this one, right? From register.php, from home.php, if I come to this one, what does it indicate? This condition will become true because a session will be already created once you log in, right? A session variable will be created once you log in, right? So when it is created, this isset function will check whether it is there or not, and if it is not empty, it is going to return true. If it is returning true, then this will become true, and as a result, this header function will be executed and it will redirect you to home.php. But if you are not logged in, the session will not be existing. Session variable will not be existing. So that is the reason why this will return false. Then this will not be executed. Right? Now I am logged out of my account. Right? So if I try to now when I come to this page, register.php file, right? So what is happening? PHP script gets executed first before the HTML form is executed. PHP script gets executed. This script will be executed, and this what is this going to do? It is not going to redirect you to the home page. But when I try to come to this register.php file from the home.php file, then because I have already logged in and this session variable is already created, this will become true and I'll be redirected to home.php. So don't get confused with this one. Why I am writing. This will not be useful in all the scenarios. Only this code will be useful only when you try to come to register.php file from home.php. And when you will be able to reach home.php file only after you log in. Right? So that means when you are already logged into your account, then this will not be executed. you are not logged in, you are about to log in, you didn't log in yet, then this will not be executed. Okay, so this is register.php file. So in the next class, we are going to see the index.php file also. So there actually we are going to create session. We have not yet created the session entry here in the register.php. The login page, that is in sign in page, that is index.php file. There you are going to create the session actually. Okay. So tomorrow's class and the next class, day after tomorrow, I think, Friday. So we'll see. Fine. Now let me take the attendance. అయితే ఎందుకు వేస్తావు నువ్వు? Okay. C1, C2, C3, C4, C5. ఈ అమ్మాయికి ఏమైంది, ఎందుకు రావట్లేదు? ఎనీ ప్రాబ్లం? ప్రీతి, anyone knows about her? Why she is not attending classes? C6, C7, C8, C9, D0, D1, D2, D3, D4, D5, D6, D7, D7, D8, D9, D0, D1, D2, D3, E4, E5, E6, E7, E8, E9, F0, F1, F2, F3, F4, F5, F6, F7, F8, F9, G0, G1, G2, G3, G4, G5, G6, G7, G8, G9, H0, H1, H2, H3, H5, H6, H7, H8, 9, not 93, 593, 513, 514, 515, 17, 18, okay, you can leave the class.